Hey guys, welcome back to Passion for the Wild and Wonderful. Um, right now we've been doing a good bit of talking about turkey hunting, and so one of the things we've done is went through, talked about what some of the recommended gear would be for beginning turkey hunters. We also went over some of the tips and tricks. I think we were doing 5 tips and 5 different tricks. And I think I narrowed it down to about 8 different pieces of gear that I'd recommended for new turkey hunters. So what I'm going to do now is go over my personal gear that generally I carry in my turkey vest when I'm out hunting with a shotgun. So this can vary different if I'm out trying to do it with my bow, but we'll cover this with the gun, and then I'll highlight maybe at the end a little bit of some other differences and stuff. So as I said before here on other videos, if you haven't seen it, go ahead and switch back and take a look at some of the other videos on the top turkey tricks, tips, and equipment for beginners. But this is something that I think, as you get to be more experienced, or if you think, I know I'm going to fall in love with it, I'm going to go ahead and start buying more equipment. I think this should be one of the next pieces of equipment that a turkey hunter would want to have is a turkey vest. So with it, you want to be able to make sure and arrange all the gear that you're taking with you, whether it be turkey calls or some of these other items that I'm going to explain. You want to have a good pad to be able to sit on, because there is a chance that you could be sitting in the same position for a couple hours or multiple hours at a time, and you want to try to keep from getting a stiff butt. So I recommend something with a good heavy pad. Also, what's super nice is being able to have this back pouch to carry your decoys, or in my case, a poncho. And then at the same time, hopefully you're able to fill this up when you leave for the day and be able to carry a nice big gobbler in it. So, like I said, let's go ahead and go through, and we'll talk about some of the stuff that I carry in this pack. So for me, one of the things is generally when I'm starting out in the morning, I'll have my headlamp on my head. But as I get to my spot and get set up on the first thing I'll do is take this off, tuck it away into my turkey vest. And then, as I said, I like to normally carry 2 different pair of gloves, especially on the early spring mornings. I'll carry a medium weight and a lightweight glove. I'll probably start out in the morning, like I said, on the medium weight, so my lightweight will probably be inside my vest. And then generally too, when I'm out before daylight, what I'll go ahead and do is also have my face net on and just pull down as I'm walking into an area where I'm either going to be trying to do a locator call and maybe roost the birds, try to locate where they are already on roost, or if I'm actually going to do setup because I already have a good idea of where they might be located. I'll already go ahead and have at least this half face on and down, so that when I sit down, I've already got my gloves on. I can just pull my net up, or as I get closer, I can go ahead and pull it up, and I'm not worried about getting too hot with this face net. Now, I did reference in the other video that I do have a full face, I say, but open area here in the front that I sometimes use when it's really cold. But otherwise, my go-to is that mesh one. In the back section, sometimes what I might do is tuck in just this single little monopod to be able to have for whenever I set up. It's lightweight. It can be adjusted to various heights so that wherever you're at, you can go ahead and adjust it for the appropriate height. I sometimes like to take the single here, or sometimes with the bipod, I like to have it as well. It just gives me a little bit more stability. It's a little bit more difficult, however, if you're lined up and the bird happens to be off and you can't quite swing or make that move from the seated position, then you do have these 2 legs that you're trying to move around in the leaves and get set up to where, at least with the monopod, if I'm set up, I'm able to just quickly move it over and I'm reset. So I think, as I've said in the past, I like to normally, or I've historically, before I got these, just cut off a limb with a good fork and have it set up, which is another one of the things that I like to carry with me. I don't have it sitting here, but I like to carry a set of pruners. So with the pruners, I'm able to go ahead and historically, like I said, trim off a limb or something, a stick to be able to set up on. Otherwise too, what you find is you might see that this is the perfect tree, but it's got some briars, or when I hunker down in the brush, I've got a few things that are above my eye line, and so I want to trim those down so I have the good visibility, or maybe shooting lanes or pockets whenever I'm tucked in the brush to have some openings, and it just so that you don't have that uncomfortable stick or sticks or whatever that you're sitting on. You can trim those flush with just a nice, handy, lightweight pair of pruners. Same thing that I carry with me when I'm hunting in deer season. So the other things I like to carry is I normally carry just a single paddle call or box call. I do carry generally 2 push-pull calls. With it, I do that also too so that I can simulate fighting jakes, or more of, I guess, fighting jakes versus gobblers, but fighting jakes. If it really came down to me being in desperation and trying to see if I can get some kind of response. With that as well, I normally carry the HS Strut chalk, and then I really like that camo chalk for it from Hunter Specialties. I've used other chalk in the past, and it didn't give me the good resistance, or as I say, roughness, to where I was able to smoothly do my purrs. It was more of just a slide, and it wasn't giving me that little like chatter of the purr coming across. So another thing I'll tell you too is what I try to generally do is to chalk these push pulls the night before and cycle them a few times, just so that I get it to where it's making the sound and it's responding the way I want, straight out of the get-go when I call upon it, trying to use it that next day. Otherwise, if you wait, you chalk it that morning, you have to work it through. Some of that might be squeakiness and not the kind of call that you want. I learned that the hard way, that just chalk it the night before. Generally what I do is I have a little case here for my various diaphragm calls that I just carry around my neck. That way it's just quick, because I don't have a diaphragm access location really that's designated on this turkey vest. But have it around my neck, it's quick, I can just get it, pop it in, and then generally I just keep it to the side of my mouth for the rest of the day, unless I just my jaw gets tired or whatever, I get tired of having it cupped in my jaw, then I can put it in here. But it's somewhere that's quick access, so that I don't lose them. I do have little Velcro circular tabs in here that just keeps them closed for me, so they're real simple to open up, and I don't have to worry about them falling out. I'll come back to these, but then like I said too, I normally like to have my slate call. That's one side slate, the other side is glass, a couple different strikers, and that's pretty much it for actual turkey calls. I like to carry with me 2 locator calls. I like to have a crow call, especially when I'm in the middle of the day or after it's broke light pretty good, to fire one off if I really have to. The idea with it as well is that instead of me necessarily calling or making noise as a turkey, that I run the risk that if something hears me and starts coming in my way to the call, I can use a locator call, whether it be the crow call or the owl hooter, to try to get one to shock gobble, and then at that point I can try to get myself set up and have a better chance of calling that bird in, and not accidentally calling it in with me trying to locate with a turkey call and then busting it when I'm trying to set up, or it coming in quietly without me knowing, and when I go to move or relocate, next thing you know I bust the bird. So I like to have both. Owl hooter for first thing in the morning. I have used it after daylight and have had success somewhat getting them to shock gobble, so don't be afraid to try it during the day as well. I also like to go ahead and carry some TP in a bag just so that I can keep it dry. Normally what I do with my shells, I fell in love with these Longbeard XRs. They're 3-inch mag. I normally will take maybe 4 or 5 and got designated locations there in the turkey vest to go ahead and store them. So I'll normally take 4 or 5 out, and the hope would be is that will last for 4 or 5 years, losing one a year. Growing up, all I primarily ever used was a single shot, so it was normally one shot and done. And it was until last year that I ended up stepping up and going ahead and using a semi-auto. to get that added benefit of having some additional rounds if the first one's not successful. The other thing too, like that I definitely fell in love with this past year, deer hunting, and the year before, was to use hand warmers and body warmers. This here is something I definitely recommend for early season with kids. Here in West Virginia and Ohio, the mornings, especially early season, are cold. And I'll tell you a story. So me and my youngest, when he was about 6, was turkey hunting at our farm. And I was working 2 different gobblers. And I could hear that they were off the roost and they were coming to us. And he kept telling me, man, my feet are freezing. And he's got rubber boots on, uninsulated rubber boots with thin socks, which is my fault. So he's wiggling and moving a bunch. And I'm like, man, you got to sit still. He's like, my feet are freezing. So I'm like, oh, what do I do? So I yanked his boots off real quick, and I had a couple hand warmers. I ripped them out of the package, shook them up, shoved them down his boots, slid them back on. Got him situated, took a coat off, threw it over his feet real quick, and wrapped them up. And I'm like, are you okay? He said, yeah. I said, all right. So went back to working the birds, and a few minutes later, I could hear him drumming around the bend, and I'd set myself up to where we were back probably 25, 30 yards from where the bend was. And so a little bit, boom, here they come around, 2 long beards, and I go ahead and take a shot on the one and jump up, take off running, get on the bird, and just keeping him down. And my youngest one, he comes running up to me, and we're all excited and celebrating and everything, and he's like, I'm sorry, Dad. And I was like, what are you sorry for? He's like, I was asleep for the whole thing. And so, a thing that I'll point out is whether it's me or whether it's a kid, if you're cold and you're uncomfortable, it's a lot harder to sit still. And you're going to definitely want to move around more. So for me, I threw these hand warmers. I didn't use a body warmer, but I threw in hand warmers into his boots. And within minutes, he was so comfortable that he fell asleep. So definitely consider taking those out with you if you're taking a young kid out. And then also, too, for yourself. You don't want to be out there and be miserable. So another thing I'll do is I always want to check the forecast. Sometimes I get blindsided and I might not have rain gear with me. But generally, especially if I'm doing a lot of turkey hunting, I'll go ahead and take this camouflage rain poncho and keep it in my truck. And if I know rain's coming, but it's only supposed to be a brief shower, I'll go ahead and tuck it into that backpack or pouch area of my turkey vest. If I know it's going to be a long shower and then I'm going to want to sit out and hunt, I'll go ahead and have the blind set up, or I'll take it and set it up and climb into it. But this is nice. It's very lightweight, compact. It's kind of split down the side, so I can have my turkey vest and everything on, drape it over, has a little hood, and I can lay it up over my knees when I'm sitting up against a tree, and I'm completely shielded from the rain. And then, if it quits, I can go ahead and pull it off, shake it off, and tuck it back into the vest, and I'm really not carrying that much weight, and I'm not having to worry about wearing rain gear that maybe isn't necessarily that breathable, to where with me doing a lot of run and gun, I can get hot and sweaty. So I really like to have that in the truck just in case. So another thing you can see is a couple decoys. So I'll generally take both those decoys, collapse them or fold them up, put them into the back pouch with my stakes as well. Now they are made out of a little bit of a more rigid plastic or foam, so they don't collapse down super easy. So they are kind of bulky, and I have trouble trying to keep them in my pouch. So my dad did come across this past year or so some of these collapsible, and I call them sort of like spring-loaded. You twist them and they collapse down, and they're a quick snap open decoy. That he found these Montana decoys, 2 hens and a strutting gobbler, at a yard sale. So I'm anxious to try them out this year and see how they do, because they'll be way more compact. As you can see, they're very thin, not much space at all, very lightweight, and definitely would be more convenient than those. And then generally too, what I'll have is a shotgun on my shoulder coming in, being set up. So that's generally what I carry every time I go turkey hunting with my turkey vest and with a shotgun. So now some differences with my bow. So obviously with my bow, I generally hunt it out of the blind. I'll have the blind probably already set up ahead of time, have a chair that's in there as well. And then when I come, what I'll do is come in with, my release, my bow and arrows. I generally, especially in like bow season for deer, I generally have a bow holder that goes on my hip. I don't have a bow hanger or holder that goes in off the blind itself. I would like to get some that I've borrowed from a friend before that you can stake in the ground and have your bow there, but normally I just have my bow laying against the front face of the blind. The other thing is I generally would also too carry my rangefinder. So, for me, especially with the bow, I would want to go ahead and have different ranges ranged. And, I don't use the rangefinder when I'm in gun, but to me, that's another good idea to think about. Especially, too, I've learned as some of my mistakes is when I sit down with the shotgun of trying to at least pick out areas and know what those yardages are, and also maybe identify what I believe to be my maximum yardage. So if I sit there and I got to commit to myself and say, okay, look, if they come past that tree, I'm going to consider it inside my effective range. If it's not, I need to tell myself I'm not going to take that shot. Okay, that is not going to be one of my shots from where I've patterned the gun that's going to be a high percentage kill for me. Don't do it. So that's one thing I would tell you is, if you want to use a rangefinder, even if you're a gun hunter, great. If that helps you to set up, you can range a few trees, have a general idea of where your effective range is. It can save you from making one of the mistakes that I've made in the past of taking shots at a bird that's just too far away, and I'd misjudged the yardage of actually how far they are. So, the last thing I generally, of course, carry too is my cell phone. More having it whenever I'm in a blind and my movement's hidden. But again, too, you always have to have it so you can take some after the shot photos to celebrate and send out to family and friends. So I hope that helps. I'm sure there's other things that other people carry. For me, that's pretty much the basics that I break it down to. If I was to throw any other thing in, it might be that I might take me a granola bar or a protein bar, especially if I know I'm going to be out there until, let's say, 1 o'clock and I've been out there all morning. Just something to snack on. And then that's another big thing, too, especially if I take the kids and I'm going to be in the blind sitting for a while, I immediately take snacks, I take games, I take anything that's going to sit there and entertain them and keep them out in the woods longer so that we have a chance of getting onto a bird. So, guys, thanks for joining me. I hope you enjoyed the content. If you haven't, please subscribe, like the channel, set up alerts. I'm going to be trying to put out more content as time goes on. And I wish you good luck. I hope this is helpful for you with your hunting. And we'll see you next time. Again, my name is Chris Ashley. Thanks for coming.